All right, here we go. Episode 326, Gov't Cartel. I am your host, Al Martinez, also known as Alpha Mike, on Raider Cop podcast. Got tongue-tied there for a second. Today we're going to dive into the swamp and the Gov't Cartel that may not just be in Washington. Maybe somebody else is aiding and abetting. We're going to take a dive at that, look how the Gov't Cartel operates, and the absurdity that is its objective, pretty much. So we're happy to report that we're getting close to, what is this, our 7th season coming up, I believe it is. And we have 326 episodes with this one. So, very pleased where we are. The podcast is going to be, like I said before, in other episodes recently, is going to be a lot more upgraded, as well as filming on location and other aspects of how we give you this information on the podcast. So stay tuned. Trump administration getting put together. It's exciting. Americans are enthusiastic, happy, with the exception of the left, which is still melting down. Currently, we're seeing a lot of people in the media, politicians, seasoned politicians, telling you how all these Trump appointees are losers and will not get confirmed, and it's a waste of time, and they're corrupt, and you shouldn't vote. They should not vote as senators and congressmen and women in government. Vote for these people. For example, Mike Pence came out of his tomb in the cave and recently declared that conservatives should not be voting for Robert Kennedy as the Secretary of Health, whatever position it's called, the technicality of its position. He said because he supports abortion, and therefore he could not, in good faith, see how conservatives should be voting for him. Now, again, Mike Pence is like many of these swamp creatures in Gov't Cartel that don't seem to understand things that are happening in the real world. You see, recently the Supreme Court said, no, this abortion thing, technically the federal government never should have been involved in it, and it should go back to the states. So Mike Pence, if you're listening, now, dude, whatever state you're hiding in now, that's who you need to worry about, not Robert Kennedy and what he believes. You know, coming from the Democrats, that they had I don't know, what do you call it, transformer? A dude that was a dude, that might still be a dude that thinks he's a woman, that dresses up in an admiral suit, and you have to use the pronouns of she, but it was born a dude. And that's not weird. They confirmed him or her. I don't know which one you're supposed to use, but anyway. Let's get back on the subject. Trump is putting the A-team together. We are getting closer and closer to game day, January 20th, where we as Americans are going to have a roller coaster ride like no other for the next 4 years. January 20th, 2025, set that on your calendars. Now, to backtrack real quick on another intro point, recently I did an episode called The Sheriff. We talked about the importance of sheriffs in America, that the woke, sick, crazy left lunatics would attack and try to get these sheriffs that are hacks. They've been, they came into the department. They may be somewhat Democrat, and they push their careers. And next thing you know, him or her might be in a position to become sheriff or run for sheriff, and that George Soros money pops out of nowhere, and bam, you have a woke sheriff. And we spoke at this last episode called the Sheriff, how Miami-Dade, after 60 years, went back to an elective sheriff. Prior to that, they had removed the position, given the authority to first 60 years ago to the county manager, and then it would transform to a strong mayor for Miami-Dade County, and they would take their power and they would appoint a police director under the sheriff's umbrella. It was a unique system because Miami-Dade had a home rule charter that the Florida voters allowed in 1956 for that craziness to happen, and they booted out their sheriff in 1966 in Miami-Dade, and they created this director position and a politician / county managers in charge. Well, we're going back to sanity in Florida, thank God, and they've got to do it like all 66 other counties. There are 67 counties in Florida. 66 knew exactly what to do. The 67th, Miami-Dade, just found out 60 years later your cockamamie plan of 1956 was a joke. So they're back, and after 60 years, they voted in a sheriff. Thank God we got the right one in. Now, some points I want to clarify. Some of my past co-workers, and we've been chit-chatting on Facebook, and there was some interesting, respectable comments about the new sheriff's department in Miami-Dade. Their cars will be, or the vehicles, police vehicles, will be going to a forest green and white, which is the standard colors according to the state statute. There were some comments made by the sheriff-elect, Rosie Cordero, which said she would not change the uniform in her administration. A little trick on words. She said it may happen after me, but for right now, I'm not switching out the uniform, mostly because of cost. But according to statute, the badge, and there's where the debate lied, and the badge has to resemble the shape. Statute says the shape of a 5-point star. Miami-Dade's badge, and of course I don't have mine, but here's a little badge of what Florida is. It's not circle like this, but let's see if you can get it on film. If you're watching see the 5-point? So that's the badge you have to go to. Forget about the circle aspect of it. And Miami-Dade's does have a 5-point inside a shield with an eagle on top. And so anyway, back to the debate was, and it appears that star badge is going to have to be switched out as well into, like all the other sheriffs, 5-point badge. So just wanted to clarify that. And I don't know if I even mentioned the uniform and all that in the other podcast, but I said, let's just get that out of the way. All right. We've touched on the election, the Trump A-team getting formed. We touched on the sheriffs, and we touched on 2025, the great podcasts we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing some interviews, about 4 or 5 in 2025. So let's open up our Bibles. We're going to go to it's going to be Ephesians. Nope, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. Give me a minute. Ephesians 4, and starting at 31. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be kind to one another. Some people are not being kind. Some of our Democratic friends are acting like they're kind as they count in votes. But it's time to put a lot of this stuff behind us and let us focus forward. And even if the Democrats don't want to. All right, so that's my 10 cents. All right, if you're looking for gun training in the Tampa Bay area or the west coast of Florida, give us a call at RaiderCopTac.com. That's RaiderCopTac.com. We can show you beginners, intermediate, or advanced on pistol, revolver, shotgun, and there's some good stuff in shotgun worlds. And although some people say it's great home defense, I kind of differ on that. And maybe we'll do a podcast on that sooner or later. But you know, if you really like your sheetrock, it might not be the best. We also do training on rifle. So if you're interested and you're looking for good training, give us a call. Our number is 813-942-7400, 813-942-7400, and you can also reach out to us on the email world at Raider Cop Podcast, all one word, small case, Raider Cop Podcast at proton, PROTON.me, M-E. And if you want to hear all our podcasts from number 1 to number 326, you can at RaiderCop.com, RaiderCop.com. Today's episode is the new cartel. Excuse me, we had that one already. The government cartel. And we're going to talk a little bit about the swamp and how it's going to be a little bit more complicated for this swamp that has existed, this unknown blob. That's another term that someone calls it, the blob. Remember the movie The Blob? Big, looked like Jello type of thing, and it would eat things up and like swallow entire movie theaters. The blob. Well, the government is turning into the blob in the swamp. So, without any hold-up, we're going to get the small short bus, and we're going to start our episode number 326, The Government Cartel. Episode 326, Government Cartel. I am your host, Al Martinez, also known as Al for Mike. Today, we are going to dive into the swamp in Washington and how things are going to change. Now, I don't have any show notes. You know, this is what show notes look like. These are from the last show notes. Because we're going to have a conversation. That's what we're going to have. And we're going to talk about what I believe is going to happen under this new cartel system, the government cartel, which is also known as the swamp, how it's going to be affected by the Trump administration. First off, let's start off with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy that are going to be charged with this efficiency department. Now, senators and congressmen and women in Washington that are part of the cartel government or the swamp are now starting to say, well, that's not even an official department. It's not even in the Constitution, and it has no real authority. So they're babbling. So the authority that they're going to be working under is that of the executive branch. There are three branches for our government folks over at the cartel in Washington, better known as the swamp, and they're masquerading as congressmen and senators. There are three branches of government, which are executive, legislative, and the, of course, court system. So apparently the legislative part doesn't know that these three mechanisms are working. So the branch of effectiveness and how they're going to find waste in government is, I think they call themselves DOGE, something like that. It's going to be under the executive branch, under the authority of the president. In this case, the 47th president of the United States, which his name is Donald J. Trump. Now, Congress needs oversight, so they have to create this department. You remember after 9/11, which a lot of people are questioning now, 24 years or so later, the World Trade Center attacks. That just, a bunch of, terrorist type guys got on a plane and they attacked the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and all that. And the government was caught off guard, supposedly. And remember those buildings just coming straight down? And, well, years later, people say that was weird. Oh, anyway, let's get back on track. So the government is been changed since then. Following that event in 9/11, which is September 11th of 01, they created, shortly after that, the Department of Homeland Security. They took all these other departments, they kind of moved them around, customs and immigration, and they put them under this thing called Homeland Security. In two bats of an eye, they created a whole new system. So, give that BS to somebody else. A lot of people, FBI. Well, the FBI wasn't created by the forefathers in 1776, 78, 80, 1787. No, not even close. So a lot of these departments that are in government today, some of them are less than 50, 60, 70 years. Department of Education, I believe, is 30-something years. So when you hear the BS, just think about if what they're saying might be true or not. Anyway, let's get back on track. So that's the one thing they're saying. On the intro, I talked about how Mike Pence all of a sudden came out of his cave and says that no conservatives should be voting for Robert Kennedy in this health department position he's going to have because of the fact that he supports abortion. And they completely forgot that the Supreme Court recently ruled that Roe versus Wade, that abortion issues should not be a federal issue, it should be a state issue, and that issues go back to their states and let their legislations figure out if you can have an abortion or not. So, Mike, as we told him earlier, hopefully you're paying attention and you can call your state legislator and see what's going on there. So, the swamp now is very unnerved, and one of the biggest positions that they're nervous about is the Department of Justice, where they have Matt Gaetz, congressman. He's not qualified. He shouldn't be in the position. Just like the guy that's they're going to promote in the Department of Defense, Pete. Last name escapes me. But everybody says he's on Fox and Friends. Is he even qualified? Well, I started asking myself, let's look at some of the people that were there before. They weren't even in the military. Shit. So, qualifications are not a big deal for the government. See, they rewrite the handbook. They create whatever they want, and they get whatever they want. So, could he be the next defense secretary? Of course he was a major in the Army. I believe it was reserve, but he did serve active duty combat. He's done more than a lot of these other phony clowns that have taken the position and never served. So he's supposed to be a civilian position. That's what he currently is. But he has military experience. So shit, in my book, it sounds like he's qualified. Okay? And when you look at the constant picking and this one shouldn't be there and that, it's all to get you off the ball, your eye off the ball, and cause dissension in the ranks. So Donald Trump won, I think it was 71 or 72 million votes. And it was pretty decisive, the victory, that the mandate is Americans want change. Period. End the subject. And I'm not going to drop the microphone because then I'll have to turn it back on. So they want change, and that's it. And that's what they're getting, change. And Donald Trump, better known as 47, is putting people in that don't have that swampiness in them. In other words, they're not career politicians, so they really don't know how to operate as a swamp creature. But they have enough intelligence to figure it out. And another point that I want to put on the table, a lot of people say, well, you know, Robert Kennedy's a little bit of a lunatic because he's not even a scientist and he doesn't have any scientific data on the positions that he's screaming about that he wants to eliminate. And that's not true. What he doesn't have is American data. Why? Because no lunatic American scientist would give up the cash cow of research money that the government doles out in contradicting the government. It ain't that difficult. So what he does have, Robert Kennedy, is a lot of the data from other countries and other places and continents like Europe that they won't even allow us to send our potato chips over there. And that's the data he has. So it's data from other countries on why they will not accept the food that we're digesting here over there. And the reason for that is because no scientific research company in America, being American, will contradict the cartel, the government cartel. Just will not happen. You might as well just shoot yourself in the foot. And that, not literally, but I'm not telling you to do it. So we look at another aspect that they want to do. They want to disband the government agencies from the swamp in Washington, D.C. and spread them out all over the country. And I say, hallelujah. It's about time. I am going to do another podcast because I couldn't get out. First of all, when I was going through the list, there were so many things. I was mind-boggled. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, every year at the end of the year, he composes a list of ridiculous nonsense that the government sponsors. Just to give you an idea of one of them, it was the study of lizards on a treadmill. Did you hear what I just said? It's the study on lizards walking on a treadmill. Millions. So this is the kind of stuff that the government cartel likes to support. Here's another mind-boggling issue. The Democratic Party, okay, that's not a government entity. They're the Democrats' party, where they collect money, funds, and support Democratic lunatics to become politicians. They spend, according to their records, $1 billion with a B for Kamala in this presidential election that just passed. I think it was 100 days that she ran, and they spend $1 billion. It's going to be interesting if the Democratic Party has receipts for the $1 billion. My guess, and it's my opinion, that some of that transactions might have been done in cash, especially between early voting and November 5th. Yeah. Good old cash. You know, the cash that the government doesn't want you to have, they want you to use electronic means. That way, your social score goes down. They can just click, and that's the end of your spending digital money. They're not there yet, because once again, 45, which is 47 now, has gotten in the way. But you look at $1 billion, man, and that was the result. They were that bad, huh? They try to spend money to get their agenda passed, and it failed. The government cartel being spread around the country will probably remove at least half of them. They'll refuse to leave Virginia, where a lot of them live, and go like to Montana or Oregon or wherever the government wants to send that department. And there are some senators and congressmen and congresswomen that are saying, nope, they will not happen. We have oversight. Yeah, sure, okay. I think it's a good thing to take them out of their comfort zone, and $35 trillion that we owe, and they're telling us no. 35 trillion with a T. And they're saying no. It's not going to happen. You're a lunatic. It's going to happen. It should. So, government cartel, better known as the Swamp, is on the move. They're screaming and kicking and yelling down the hallway, refusing to walk, and they're being dragged by 47 as accountability is coming their way, as they're being moved from their humble abodes in Washington, D.C., all around the country, as they're finding things underneath the mattress that looks like cash, as they're finding out these schemes that they're doing. You know, the Democrats actually have exercises that they do where they resemble themselves overthrowing the government, and specifically Donald Trump's government. That's right, they have table exercises where they come up with strategy on removing Donald Trump from presidency. And I thought the guys in January 6th walking peacefully through the Capitol, taking pictures with their phones as the cops let them in, I thought that was against the law. Well, obviously the Democrats know more than all of us. Government cartel. It's an ugly business. There are private industry that work for the government cartel. Social media, as they spy on you, as your phone listens to you, your television is at the ready, and they give that data, that information at the ready as soon as a cartel member says, I need, they respond. Of course, this is all hypothetical because it's never been proven, because our FBI doesn't investigate these type of things. They're looking at soccer moms and Catholics that seem to be closer to being terrorists. We live in a sick society, my friends, and we have to do our best. In conclusion, what we need to do is we need to support 47. We need to look at our politicians, whether they're Republican or Democrat. If they're your representative, you need to look them in the eye. You need to communicate your outrage. You don't want to have a $40 trillion deficit. You don't want to have swamp creatures in Washington, D.C. forever. You don't want to have wokeness in government. You don't want to have lizards being studied on treadmills. It stops with you. It starts with your actions in asking that your government stick its thumb out of you-know-where. If you believe that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren need to pay $40 trillion deficit that your current government did and you allowed, well, skip over the podcast and go put on a Democratic lunatic one. I'm sure there's plenty of Marxist ones out there. And subscribe. If you believe in the green new scam, that's your problem. Stop using deodorant. It starts with you. That's what you believe? Don't drive a car. Ride a bicycle. Impress me. You don't want to eat meat? Don't eat it. You want to eat bugs? Start snacking. But leave me alone. And you, Mr. and Mrs. America, should be doing the same thing. You know, my heart bleeds for the residents and the citizens of California. They are terrorized by these terrorists for decades with no chance of ever being a red state. I think their opportunity, the best one they had was November 5th, and it passed by. The bus took off without them. I feel bad for them. I know this podcast gets a lot of listeners from California. Man, I feel your pain. From Florida, I feel your pain. And I'm telling you, you need to stay focused. And it starts with you in your district, with the clown that's running as your representative. And we start taking one out in the voting booth, one at a time, and we start becoming more and more victorious. Hopefully, we will see a red California one day. I believe that could happen. I believe the greatest opportunity to do that was November 5th with Donald Trump. We came Close, but no cigar. If you're in a red state like I am, don't take it for granted. They can pick your pocket too. It's time we support what we want. People now, the Trump dance, athletes are doing it. They're scoring touchdowns and in the end zone there. They're doing the Trump. All over. They're doing the Trump. What was seen as a 4-letter word 4 to 8 years ago, people are fed up. They're proudly saying that they support 47 now. And it should be. But support them at the ballot box and support them with your voice. You remember that, right? Article 1, First Amendment, freedom of speech. The investigations of the soccer moms are coming to an end because the way the swamp used to do business, the government cartel, is about to come to an end. And it's a joyous time for us. We need to celebrate it, we need to support it, and we need to have the victory party dance, the Trump. So, if you believe what I said, take action. If you think, it's talking nonsense, I'm going back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Hopefully, you'll wake up to a country that still has purpose. Up next for us, CEO Hypocrisy, episode 327, December 11th. We're going to look at those CEOs, the ones that literally put gas all over themselves and lit themselves on fire. Yep, they did that. Budweiser, Target, lit themselves on fire with the woke bullshit. And now they're trying to switch back and put on their red caps. CEO Hypocrisy, December 11th, episode 327. And 328, December 18, who are the new kids on the block? And they are your neighborhood illegals. Yeah, they're probably living real close to you, and we're going to take a look at that as well. And December 25th, which is Christmas, we're going to do Ho Ho Ho. That broadcast will be prior to Christmas. And we're going to dwell into what Christmas used to mean as a child compared to an adult. And then we boil into 2025, and I'm excited about that as well. All right, if you're looking for a good gunsmith, I know the guy's name is Pistol Pete the Gunsmith. He's down in Miami. His information is down at the bottom of the show notes. He will tell you how you can send your gun legally to him, and he can fix up your weapon to your specifications, high quality stuff, and send it right back to you. Also, if you're in the New Jersey area and you just woke up from your sleep, your state has finally allowed people in New Jersey to have gun carrying permits. And I know the guy that's teaching the class. His name is Karis. And he runs Sepulveda, Sepuvleda, Inc. His information is down at the bottom of the show notes. Over 20 years, NRA instructor, coach, former police firearms instructor, good quality training. Give him a call. And if you're in the South Florida area and you're looking for good training down in Miami in that area, AAA Gun Safety with a Model. AAA gun safety. And don't forget, always give it a look at oasiscreationslv.net. oasiscreationslv.net with the Alicia that does a lot of wellness. We've got to sometimes separate from a lot of this stress that we live. So I'll give that a look as well. As always, continue to keep yourself in prayer because without you, we have nothing. Continue to pray for your life, your community, your family, the law enforcement agencies that serve you, and most important, continue to pray for the United States of America and for our president, Donald J. Trump, the 47th president of the United States. I'll see you soon. I'll see you downrange.